Hey guys, working on the Jag this morning before work. Got it covered up. Don't want to get overspray on it because that'd just be a nightmare. I got this fender worked up pretty nice. We got this piece here. I got some putty on it. Pretty smooth. Got this over here. This looks kind of choppy, but that looks can be deceiving. Once I get a layer of primer on there, I'll use some heavy primer surfacer. I can feel it's rough there. Anyway, I'll get a good coat of primer surfacer on there, and then I'll be able to tell if there's any places that need filler. I got a spot right here that needs a little filler. Then I'll use some of this spot glaze. It's a polyester glaze compound, like the old lacquer-based stuff, only much better. So, gonna get that done. Got this worked up pretty decent. The bumper, I use that flexible putty on this, puttied up the holes they had in here for license plates. Feels a little rough right in through here, about like, again, I'll do a thick layer of primer, surfacer, and then hit that with some of that spot glazing putty. Got these parts right here, and this one here is the one that's I'm looking at fixing right now. If you can see, it's got a bend in it, and this is the part that goes inside the grill. It's that thin piece, and you can see it's bent. There's a little crack there where it's broke. So I got some of this plastic Loctite epoxy bonder. I'm gonna try some of this stuff on that. Also gonna put it on this. This is a part of the headlight bucket. And everywhere I look on eBay and everything, they're like 150 bucks. People want 200 bucks. You buy them by the pair. I picked up this one here at the junkyard. I think I gave 40 bucks for it, which was too much because it is broken here. I could fix those, but it's got some other damage and stuff. This is the most solid one I had. It even has a stud still here. I got this stud here for the nut. So what I'm gonna do is glue this guy back in there. I took this out of a junk piece that's down here. That was another one I picked up for like $7 at Gary's. You pull it. Anyway, I'm going to stick this in here like this, going to glue it up and see how that works out using this epoxy. This epoxy looks to me like it's a little bit of a pain, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Got it glued up. Got this other piece glued up, and I've got this. I'm gluing the backside. I'm hoping that holds it, and I'm pretty sure it will. Got it clamped down there, and I got that crescent wrench shoved back. So hopefully I'm getting about the right arc to it. Boy, next thing to do is spray some primer. All right, gonna get ready and prime up these parts. I was gonna wipe the thing down with a quality wax shop line. It's PPG stuff, wax and grease remover, to make sure there's no grease and wax, because that stuff just causes all kinds of trouble. Back in the old days, I used to do it, but nowadays, put on the gloves. Don't want to soak all that stuff into my skin. This is an old spray gun. This is something I've had probably, gosh, I don't know, 20 years. It's an Astro HLVP01. I don't know about how low pressure it is, LP, because I always use like 40 pounds in it. But anyway, works pretty good. It's got the 1.9 millimeter nozzle, so I wind up using this for primer and stuff. And I'm going to be using this primer, which has been sitting around a while. So we're going to see how that works out. It may be crappy. Who knows? They tell you. I just went to the paint store yesterday. They were like, "Oh, have you got good hardener?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you know, if it's been open for more than 14 days, it's no good." But I have used it after 2 years, and it's been fine. And I mean, once it goes on, it hardens up. The paint looks good. I don't know what the problem would be. Maybe some kind of longevity issue. I probably wouldn't do it if I was doing customer work. But for one of my cars, especially like my old S10 or, you know, something that's I'm just planning on driving for a couple of years, I'm not going to throw away, you know, $70 worth of hardener just to buy another thing and do it all over again. So I'm going to see how this primer works. Yeah, it's pretty thick. It's stirring up from the bottom. You can see it's most of the solids are down at the bottom now because it's been sitting around for a while. But it's only used about a quart out of this thing, and I know I'm going to be able to mix this back in. There's nothing hard, stuck. Actually, if this doesn't even have to sit that long, and it does this because it's so high solid. And I had the lid off this. Little string on the lid. Other than that, it looks clear and fine, and well, we're just going to see how it works out. Oh yeah, this is coming up smooth and creamy. High solids for sure. I'll probably have to use some of this universal urethane reducer to get it to come out of the gun. But just a splash, just enough to thin it down so it'll spray out. And with the 1.9 nozzle, it can be a little thicker. But yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. I'm thinking that's going to be okay. Then we're going to use this paint mixer, well, not mixer, but this mix cup, and it's got all different graduations on it. It tells you how to use it. So 4-to-1, this stuff is a 4-to-1 mix. So what I'm going to do is make the smallest quantity I can, which would be number 1 there. So the first thing I do is put in the primer up to the number 1 line, add hardener up to the next number 1 line, and that will get me to a 4-to-1 ratio. Ooh, boy, this stuff's thick. And it's not laying out very smooth. I shouldn't have probably put the mix stick in with it, because it poured down the mix stick, went right over to the graduation lines, and now it's like not even there. It's leveling out. It's like leveling compound or something. Well, I know this isn't going to be enough anyway, so I'm going to jump it up to the 2 mark. Let's see how that goes. Try to pour right in the center, slowly. And we're coming up to 2, slowly. If I didn't know better, I'd say that cup's sitting there kind of crooked. Oh, it looks straight. And you're almost up to 2. The suspense is killing me. Yeah. That looks about right. Now when I put the hardener in this, it's game over. That's when that stuff we got, like, I don't know, I think it's like an hour to use it. And after that, it'll, I was clever enough to put a hole in my rim of the paint can so the paint will drip back down into the can out of the rim. My problem is I put it right where the instructions are and stuff, but that's alright, because most of these instructions you can look up online anyway. It's really the best bet. Alright, now I've checked out the old gun, put a little bit of lacquer thinner in it, made sure it was pouring out of the nozzle correctly, straight. A little drip on the floor is not going to hurt me in this place. So it's shooting directly straight out of the nozzle. I can't get it. There we go, you can see it. Anyway, so I got a little of that in there to clean up any dust or junk that was in the gun. Always got to clean your guns up after you use them, because if you don't, you have a nightmare in your hand. Well, you just throw the gun away basically, unless there's a solvent that I haven't found yet that'll dissolve all the junk out of the inside of the throat and everything. On occasion I do take them apart and clean them out in there, but not too often. I mean, I can get away with a few jobs before I have to do that, even though I don't paint, but only once in a while, probably maybe 3 or 4 times a year at this point. So that primer's had a chance to settle. We're right on the 2 mark. So I think what I'm going to do is put the hardener in. I'll stir it up good, not shake it or agitate it, stir it and try to get it to a nice consistency that'll go through the gun. So I got the hardener up to the 2 mark. I'm just going to start stirring it. One thing you want to make sure you never do is use a stir stick and then put it back into the mother can with any trace amount of hardener on it, because it will start hardening that can up. And I don't know if it works in a matter of quantity or time. If it, you know what I'm saying, is if a small amount of hardener that came in from a contaminated stick would harden the whole can, but I'm sure it wouldn't do it any good, that's for sure. So now we're gonna stir this up. And some people use I forget what they call it, it's a special kind of cup that, a second cup, but you can count how long it takes for the whatever you're spraying to drip down through. See, now that looks pretty decent. I mean, it's mixing up. Even with the old, even though it's old stuff that, you know, the guys at the paint store tell me, no way, you can't use that. So I can tell by looking at the way it's streaming off the mix stick that that's not gonna spray. That's a little too thick still. You can see it. And that's how I always do it. You kind of just get a feel for it. Even though it's been years since I painted anything professionally. Yeah, that's thick. You can see it. So I'm going to add a little bit of this universal urethane reducer. And just a dab will do ya. That's probably more than enough. Now, I'm just an amateur painter. There's guys out there that, I mean, probably forgot way more than I know about it, but I do know a couple things. And a lot of it's technique. I mean, that's still a little thick. I can tell by looking. That's still streaming off there. Shaky than I used to be. That's streaming off kind of thick. So I'm going to add just a little bit more reducer. These cans always just are terrible to pour out of. I'm sure there's some kind of nozzle I could get for those. In fact, I'm going to ask them at the paint store next time I go up. See if there's something like a spout or something you can put on these. We'll mix it up some more. Now we're getting closer to the consistency we want. In fact, I think I'm going to give that a try, because that looks like it's, I want it on the thick side, but I want it to get through the gun. All right, so that looks about the right consistency. Now I'm going to dump out the rest of that lacquer thinner I had cleaning my gun and give it a whirl painting. All right, now I'm muffled because I have a mask on, but I'll try to talk distinctly. Always use a paint strainer, because if you don't, some little booger is going to get in there and it's going to get jammed up right in that nozzle, and it's going to cause you nothing but fits. So don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm getting ready to pour this paint in there. I keep saying paint, but really what it is primer. Whoa. There we go. And the stuff's pretty precious, so I'll try to get every drop. All right, time to start spraying. All right, still got the mask on because it stinks in here. It's going to stink for a while, so I'm going to clean up and get out. So I got to clean the gun up. I'll use some of that universal urethane reducer, because that will cut this urethane the best. And then I sprayed this, obviously, and boy, it came out of the gun like a crinkle coat. It was just really, really thick. But I poured it on really heavy. And if you look at that, it looks pretty good. I mean, it's got heavy ridges and stuff, but that doesn't matter because that's going to get sanded out. So I'm going to let this thing dry, actually more like cure. And I'm going to sand it out and get get a quart of
primer sealer that I'll spray on everything once all the body work is done. But I think I got this pretty close to where I can just sand it out and go ahead and paint it. There's a couple little spots. I see a little spot here. You know, nothing major. There's a little spot here in this corner. I'm going to clean that up with a little bit of this glaze putty. But I think for the most part, this is good. I'm going to sand it down and spray it with some sealer. Oh.
Hey guys, went ahead and painted this stuff for the Jag. Didn't come out too bad. Looks pretty good. I think it'll match. I won't know for sure until I actually get it on there, because I'm looking at that and I'm looking at this, and it looks a shade different. But I don't know. Not until I get it on there. But this came out pretty good. I mean, the work up here isn't perfect. I see a little tiny pock hole there, and that line's a little goofy, but you know what? No one else is ever going to notice it, and I'm just doing it. We'll just drive it around. Who knows? We'll probably hit a deer with it anyway. So this came out real nice. The bumper. That's really nice. One little flaw there, not a major thing. Yeah, all in all, pretty easy to fog on the base coat. I didn't film any of that. I was just wanted to get it done. So not only that, my painting techniques are probably not something I really want to show everybody, because I'm not really, you know, I don't know if I'm doing it right or not. Just seems to come out okay when I do it. That's all. I guess what I'm saying is I wouldn't recommend copying my painting technique. There's a lot better guys on YouTube that, you know, just have experience like crazy. Like there's videos that that House of Color guy does that he really knows what he's doing. Anyway, so I'm going to start putting things back together on the old girl. I finished doing the headlight bucket. I got that glued up over here. I went ahead and used that epoxy like I showed you, and that's really quite rugged. It feels pretty good. I might fill this in a little bit more just to make it a little stronger, but I probably really don't have to. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I think I'll just fill that in just to make it a little stronger and call it good. All right.